Greetings everyone and welcome to the latest First Taste, Thea the Awakening. This is a turn-based strategic survival game steeped in Slavic mythology and folklore and set in a procedural dark fantasy world. It was developed and published by Muha Games. What an awesome name for a game company. I've just got to say, just saying that word, Muha, feels satisfying. It is currently in early access, but due for release on the 20th of November. So that's about 4 days from the time of recording this video, and probably from the time of posting this video as well. The game is an ambitious, and as far as I've seen so far, successful project, marrying elements of colony management games with a sort of roguelike RPG sort of flair to it, that causes you to actually care about the individual citizens that make up your towns. Each of them has their own stats, their own name, their own equipment, and you do have to manage these things on an individual level to get the most out of encounters and the most out of your villages as a whole. Now, as it says down here, this is an early access version. Expect bugs. I was given the game by the developers so that I could check it out and possibly make videos, and I am very intrigued and happy with what I've played so far. So here is the first taste. We're going to be playing this throughout the week leading up to the release and probably a little bit beyond it as well. Obviously, I'll be looking for feedback on what you think of the game, but to start things off, we're going to go to settings and I'm going to reset my profile. I've been through the tutorial and just checked that everything would record okay. So at this point, this kind of game has meta unlock, so every time you go through the game, your successes, your failures, things like that, unlock different elements of the game that you can start with later on. But I'm going to, for the sake of the first taste, remove that. Also, I'm going to increase the sound effects just slightly. Maybe to about there. Okay, I am happy with this. Map quality, high, please. Card animation type. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. We'll speed that up just slightly. Expeditions animation speed, all of this. Play intro, yes, that's fine. We'll see that when we begin a game, but I think that's all good. New game. Ooh. Now, we have got... Oh, that's interesting. Now, my first profile. Now, this is a sort of game where you only have one profile. If you make a new profile, it overwrites the old one. But the first time I played, I had Svarog and Horos available to me. Apparently, we have to reach different levels to unlock all of these ones. We start with, in this profile, the choice of Vales. Vales, the Keeper of the Underworld, Master of Mystical Powers and Guardian of Souls. That was your name before the Great Darkness. Now, you are simply Vales, a lost god trying to reclaim his might. The gates of the afterlife are slammed shut. Souls of the dead roam Thea and wreak havoc among the living. All you can do for now is to continue to guide your ragged group of followers towards survival. Now, gameplay options, we can get like a village focus, craftsmen, gatherers, or warriors. That'll become more evident and you'll understand what that means as we play. Difficulty I'm going to leave on normal for the sake of a first taste. Vales, God Progress. We need 50 EXP to get to level 2, I guess. The Path of Wisdom. Your villagers are committed to wisdom and so they research faster. Strong-willed. Your villagers get a +2 bonus to armor during challenges versus disease, curse, and intellect. And Mokosh is the other god we have available, or goddess in the case of Mokosh, I suppose. The Mother Earth. Life, birth, and nature are your domain. You were once the supreme goddess, ruling alongside Piran, but now everything has changed. The darkness devoured your beloved Thea and tarnished all life. You kept a handful of chosen worshippers alive in the bosom of your power, but they are weakened, lost, and scared. You must do all you can to restore balance and keep your people alive. Again, you have the same gameplay options, as far as I've seen with all gods. Again, I've only really seen 2, but they were Svarog and Horus, as I mentioned earlier. Green Fingers, your villagers are faster at gathering. Mother's Helpers, all your villagers gain a +1 bonus to gathering. If you wanted to go a gathering focus, Mokosh would be the one to do it with. Vales, more wisdom and research. I guess you could go either way, really. I'm thinking Mokosh, and then build to that strength, have a village focus of gatherers. Okay, we can also do a customized difficulty. Let's actually just check that out quickly. Normal, difficult, godlike, and custom. You can change all of these. Again, this is a procedural world. Final score multiplier is 50% because we're on normal. I guess on difficult we get... Oh, okay, we get 190. My lord. We'll stay on normal, thank you. Oh, maybe interesting. Very interesting. Alright, so as you increase the difficulties, certain things are locked off from you. That's kind of cool. But we'll be playing on normal, so we'll confirm that. And play. Okay, a little bit of time to generate the world that we are going to be playing in.
And so it was said that if the pillars of the world shall fall, darkness will descend upon all that lives. From the Book of the Dark. Man did not heed this warning. The sacred cosmic tree burned to cinder. And so the darkness came, claiming all that was bright and living in Thea. When all hope was lost, after a century without light, the sun rose once more. Thea awakened from her dark slumber, and you along with her. But Thea is not the world that once was. The age of darkness weakens, but it is far from over. Life took its shy roots, yet death will not release its grip easily. While the sun keeps some of the evil in check during the fleeting days, at night, the creatures of darkness roam free and angry, unwilling to give up their dominion over the land. It is up to you to find a way to rebuild Thea, banish the darkness, and strengthen mankind.
Thea is awakened. Welcome. No time to waste. You are a deity of the high pantheon, and you must help your worshippers survive the darkness. So what now, you ask? This is basically our tutorial. You are divine, yes, but you have little power, and so you will know the world through your people's eyes. This means sometimes you will encounter your own divine messengers, and maybe even face your own avatars. Weird? I know. Basically what they're saying there. And I don't know why they've done this, but sometimes you can meet gods or messengers of the gods. And even though I am this god, sometimes you might even meet yourself and have to do things for yourself. It's a bit weird, as it says there. Your ears are also a little bit weird. Your first mission, to survive. Every critter is trying to make sure you stay down, so get food and craft better equipment to protect yourselves. You will guide your people to victory, either by sheer survival and progress, or by solving the cosmic tree's mystery. Now, we can either go through the tutorial, I've already done it once, or just say, no, skip the tutorial. But for the sake of a first taste, we're going to go the whole length, so we're going to play the tutorial as well. What's this? Who's talking to me? And what did you mean, looking through people's eyes? I am but a messenger. Theodore, you can call me. But let us focus on you. Thea is a broken land. The underworld is shut, and the undead roam the earth, and creatures of darkness that ruled for a century want you dead. Okay, so I need to improve our village and people, so how do I get started? First, go and explore your village. Check the inventory to see your stocks, and set people to gather food and fuel, like wood. Without food, your people will starve, and without fuel, they will not craft or even heal. So these are really important. Okay, gather food and fuel at the village. Anything else? Yes. Once you've visited your village, check out the people standing outside, the exploring party. Select your party and send them to me. I will wait for your people outside the village. I have marked your people's map with a big blue question mark so they'll see where I am. Oh, and if you ever forget about your current task, just check your logbook. Alright, so check out my village and people first, then send them your way. Let's begin. Enter the minds and bodies of your worshippers and begin the adventure. Plus 1 EXP. Now we need 50 to upgrade everything. Now, this is our starting town, Ostoya. We have a few odds and sods scattered around the landscape. I can see some things through the fog of war. Very civilization-esque at this stage. Now, if we go and check out Ostoya, I think I can even change the name of Ostoya if I particularly want to. Let's see. Yes, I can. We shall call this Dapperton. Okay, now the nearby resources, wood there, vegetables right where our town is situated, and there's some things over there, fruit, and some more wood as well. We want to gather these things. This is actually pretty good. Vegetables, pretty needed resource. Wood for fuel, also very needed. Now, our villagers are going to have fairly good gathering abilities. That's what this little basket here is, how good they are at gathering. Effectively, when you put someone in this spot, it counts for 10. So I'll place you there, it counts for 10. If I place you in these slots, in the helper slots, I think it basically counts half. So you get 5 per point. So this would add an extra 15. So there we are. It would now only take me 1 turn, because to get this, I need exactly 54, and I've only got 50 there. But I want both. I don't really mind too much if it takes me 2 turns to get 7 wood and 2 turns to get 14 vegetables. This is a task that they'll repeat, but for the sake of it, I can have you help out. And I prefer the vegetables to be gone in 1 turn rather than everything else. This is their ability at crafting. Now, if we looked at crafting, there are a few things that we can do. The ones with the red borders, we can't do at all yet. This one we can do, but we'll have a look at that soon. Cooked meals, fairly important to get going very early on. We can have a look at the village overview. We can see that we're not crafting anything. We're not constructing anything. We can construct things. Currently, we only know how to make a pasture, and that requires resources we don't yet have. We would need 25 wood in total. 35 wood in total, 25 vegetables, or 2 metal, or 25 blocks of some sort. You can usually make things out of different things. And generally speaking, the primary material you use to make something will dictate what that thing actually is. So there's a difference between using a primary material for making clothing between silk and leather, for example, because it'll make a very different type of clothing. There is 1 child in our inventory. We've got all of the things with a tick are actually equipped to summon. Things with the spoon and fork, that can be used as food. Things with the little campfire icon, that can be used as fuel. Now, I would actually like to manage this. I want to turn that off. You only need 1 piece of fuel per day, but you need 1 piece of food per person per day. I don't want to use these bits of wood because I'm not going to be getting them myself, and they might be interesting, much like the difference between making clothes out of silk or leather. These are different types of logs, so I might want to keep hold of those. Now, as for equipment, I can actually have a look at everyone here. We've got Pavel. We can change their names. Sure. Okay, let's do this. There we go, Metasapia. We shall have Garoon. Richard. That's actually an awesome name. Let's go with Blank Door. And Pavel shall be Plump Helmet Punk. There we go. The name doesn't quite fit anymore, Plump Helmet, but it's fine. Now we can have a look here. It looks at this is Talking Bones. The bones of the fallen enemy have long been used as lucky charms by many cultures in Thea. +1 perception. That's good. You can see down here we have a huge list of stats. Every character has a vast array of stats that will affect them in different ways, in different types of encounters. We'll cover encounters shortly, or in the town, for example, your ability to craft or your ability to gather. Perception, your ability to spot things, to assess danger and scout ahead, used as a tactic in many challenges, including hunting or intellect challenges. We'll get to those. I think you're basically a crafter. You're a gatherer, judging by this. But they have different types of weapons. You have a sharp hip. It does 6 damage to poison. Plump Helmet Punk has this, which does 12 damage, 3 poison. We've got Garoon armed with an ivory short sword, 3 damage, 5 shielding, so it can be used to kind of block things. Blank Door is using a training sword, 3 damage and 5 shielding. And that's all of the equipment that my colony actually has right now. Each person has a weight value, and for example, these large weapons are taking up a lot of weight, so I might not be able to give you very much else. Okay, I'm happy with having looked at that. Now, here is our expedition. I could send my expedition back and have them just join the town, and I might do later on, but for now, this is a separate group of people. We can check them out as usual. Going into equipment, I can see the inventory of this expedition. We've got some food, got some fuel. These are very important to us. We've got a lot of equipment. But the food and fuel, exactly the same sort of thing. When camping, they'll use food. Basically, we've got enough food and fuel for 10 days and enough food for 5 days beyond that. They can move 5 tiles a turn. There are 6 people here. If we look at equipment, Bratomir, you're more of a crafter. High crafting there, and these things will actually be useful because you can have your expedition do quite a lot of things. They could set up a small camp somewhere and start gathering stuff, for example. You're currently wielding a wooden ring, which gives you sturdiness. Let's check out the sturdiness attribute. In physical and sickness challenges, damages the enemy and heals you for a sturdiness amount. So if the Bratomir was fighting a specific type of challenge, then that sturdiness stat would mean that effectively you would have life leech. Bramblewood staff gives 2 damage, has piercing damage, and applies poison. Now we'll have a quick look at that, shall we? Let's select that. No, can I not? Let me see if I can. If I bring it over here, then mouse over, I can probably have a look. There we go. Cards dealing piercing damage is placed in front of the last card. We'll actually cover piercing damage. It's actually, the different damage types affect combat in very different ways. Poison. If you attack a wounded creature in combat, poison damage is doubled. Well, very nice. Very nice indeed. Don't actually want to move it away. Let's give you back your staff. Now, you shall be Izdar. Yomir. You've got a massive weapon. You've got blunt damage, and that's really good. Also poison damage as well. A thorny warhammer. You shall be Dapper McJester. There we go. Got Sergey. You've just got a basic amethyst sword. You've got a bit of extra weight here, though. I could probably give you this buckler as well, which will give you different shielding properties. So now, between that and your sword, you've got a total of 11 shielding, which is actually really nice. Sergey, you shall be Dion. We've also got Rada. Let's have a look. Animal kinship. 4 perception, that's actually pretty good. Good range damage. Very nice range damage. Gives tactical abilities during fight and hunting. Very nice indeed. That's what's giving us the rain damage there. You've got a blunt greatsword. You shall be Sheelab. There we go. Delebra. You have bone spike armor, which gives 10 armor. You've got a training sword, 5 shielding, and a Pavis. We shall name you. I think that's how Fiery spells her name. I could be completely wrong. I may have to change that. I believe Fiery spells her name slightly different from actually how you'd spell Fiery, but we'll see. Bolebo, let's have a look at you. You have got a tibia club. Blunt damage again. Not a lot of damage though, unfortunately. You're more of a gatherer. So you've got crafting there, but no... Oh, there we are. 4 gathering. Good. You shall be known as... Let's see... Gravelord. Given that you're carrying a tibia around. Okay, there we go. So we can manage supplies, we can restrict certain types of fuel, certain types of food. The more varieties of food that you're eating. Right now we've only eaten 1 type of food, so we're getting no bonus, but every other type of food you eat will grant increasingly awesome bonuses to your group. Up to 10 different types of food being consumed at the same time. That would actually be really, really, really good. Okay, we can split this up to have a new expedition, but instead, we're going to go straight to Theodore's tutorial and continue on. Ooh. 2 fights going on there. When you reach these areas, kind of like ruins or anything else, there's usually a question mark. In this case, we can search the location and we know what's going to be here. Hello, Theodore. Well, hello there. I see you're finding your feet and making first steps into the world. Well done. So what now? Events, such as meeting me, will occur throughout your adventures. Sometimes they are random, sometimes predestined, and always varied. Events can occur when you're out exploring, but also globally or within your village. So remember, leaving your settlement unattended may be dangerous. That's why we've got people in there. Right, events can occur at any time, both within the village and out in the world. Anything else? Many events will ask you to bring stuff or do things in order to move to the next stage. I asked you to gather food and fuel in your village so you can gather resources in your village, but also by setting up camp when you're out exploring. To set up a camp, stand on an empty hex and choose the tent icon in the mini hut. Right, we can gather by setting up camps in the world. Got it. Good. Now events can lead to conversations or just random disasters, but they can also lead to challenges. To show you what I mean, track down a pack of boars nearby, marked by a blue question mark, and bring me back their bones. Alright, point me in the direction of those boars. Alright, we should have them on the map. Now, boars are generally not something you really want to mess with, but I'm fairly certain that the tutorial pulls its punches with this one so that we don't get utterly destroyed. Oh, you find the boars Theodore told you about. It is only a couple, so it shouldn't be too hard. However, instead of a straight fight, you can try to do a proper hunt. If you have the right skills, that is. Or better yet, you can go all native on these beasties and wrestle them to the ground. Not an easy option, that one. Okay, now. Okay, hunt is... I'm not sure, I think that marks the easiest one for us to do. Plain old fight. 2 skulls shows that it's a bit more difficult. The skulls rate the difficulty between 1 and 5. 5 being most dangerous, 1 being least. Wrestle them. Now, if you do anything, like the physical here and hunt there, are showing us what type of challenge that would be. A fight is just a flat-out combat. Now, there's a difference between fighting and a challenge. In a challenge, even if you lose, no one can die from it. However, in a fight, people will end up being wounded and can die even if you win in a fight, if someone is wounded badly enough during that combat. But it all uses the same overall thing. Now, we're going to go ahead and do a hunt, but understand that this would be the same for combat. It's not just a hunt minigame. This is how challenges are played. Great, you have the right skill. In this case, gathering, to enter into an alternate challenge. In non-fight challenges, the wounds you get during the challenge do not carry over after it finishes, meaning you have less of a risk of dying. Okay, great, go for the hunt. Right, skills used in this challenge, the direct skills are offense. This is my gathering, and for defense, we'd be using our basic health. Tactical, first action, support ally, shield ally, confuse, counter tactic, is based on animal kinship, counter offense is based on stealth, confuse is based on tactics. Now, basically, all of these things are generally available in every kind of engagement, but the skill that it's going to use to work out how well you succeed will change. In this case, offense. If this was a fight, our offense would likely be our damage stat, but in this case, we do damage to the challenge by being good gatherers. Likewise, these can change, and it's important to bear note of what's going on there. Weapon effects allowed in this. Light steps. In sneak and hunt challenges, card dealing light steps damage is placed in front of the last card. If it was an enemy card, it will also deal half of its light steps damage. Basically, that's usually what piercing does. Backstab in sneak and hunt challenges, double backstab damage to damaged characters. That's usually what poison does. And distraction in sneak and hunt challenges damages the enemy and heals you for a distraction amount. That's usually leech or something similar. You can auto resolve or you can just begin combat, and we're just going to jump in. Now we can reshuffle the deck if we want. It's basically combat in this is a card game. It's quite an enjoyable one actually as well. You can reshuffle once if your deck is not how you like it, but you've got no control over it. It'll be completely random. We can forfeit and just leave. Now we can have a look at the cards. That Majester is here, level 3. Bear in mind the levels are important. A level 5 there is generally... it can go either way, but I prefer to have my high levels in the tactics deck. This is tactics, this is the actual combatants, and it does make a difference. Gravelord, 7 defense, 4 damage. Dion, 8 defense, 4 damage. And that Majester, 9 defense, 0 damage. You've got a lot of people who can do no damage in this. because they haven't got the abilities. They have no gathering skill, for example. Likewise, the abilities to use the tactics such as counter-offense, which runs off stealth, and support ally, which runs off... I'm not actually entirely sure what that one is. But these two don't have very many of the required skills. But it appears that you have an awful lot, Sheelab. An awful lot. Pretty much you have every skill for this. That's going to be very, very useful indeed. Okay, keep and play. Now, the colour of this will change based on what type of challenge it is. This is a hunting challenge. It is our turn first. That's completely random, usually. Now, the enemy has 2 cards, 1 tactics, 1 combat. We have 3 combat cards, 3 tactics cards. And we are allowed to play 2. You're always guaranteed to be able to play 1. And for every other card you have, there's a 10% chance that you can play another card. So if you've got 10 cards, you're always going to be able to play at least 2. Let's see. Now, if I play these, they're going to play on the battlefield and be able to attack in the fight phase. First, you play all of your cards, and then the fight phase will kick up. You take it in turns. I've played 1 card there. I'll get to play another, then I end my turn. Then the enemy can start placing cards. And it's only when all cards have been placed, or a turn passes when no cards are placed, because you can choose not to play a card if you don't want to, that the actual fight begins. So this is basically us squaring off. And there's a lot of tactics here that will be hard for me to explain in one battle, but will become evident as we go through the first taste. I could support ally based on range damage, but I'm not thinking of that. First action, I don't need to. Support ally, shield ally. I could give them extra defense. Counter-offensive. Discard a random card from your opponent's offensive hand. Discarded card's level must be equal to or less than the counter-offensive. This is a very high counter-offense. I would be very surprised if they've got a card that is level 8 or more. So, this will immediately take this card out and discard it. So, I don't even need to fight it. And by taking out their only offensive card, it's actually a big thing. So I'm going to play that and get rid of you. So that hunting card is now gone to the discard pile. But so is Sheelab. Now, Sheelab was the only one of my tactics pile that I could have played. I'm going to pass this turn. The enemy's either going to play this or not if they don't have the ability to. They have played it. Now, these question marks mean it's confused. Now, why I said that it's important to get rid of the enemy's offensive cards first is because when you play an offensive card, they can take a move in the first phase of combat. There's 2 phases to each combat round. But if you're confused, you have to pass the first turn. So this card can't do anything in the first turn. So I'm going to play Dion's card now. I can play all 4. I'm not going to play Manchester. There's no point in playing Manchester. You'll do 4. You'll do 4. Together, that's more than 7. So we're going to win at this point. I don't need to do any more than this. I could, if I wanted to, counter-offensive would take a card from the offensive hand. We don't need it. I could use Confuse on the hunting because the level is limited by my Confuse rank, which is 3. This is only 3, so if this wasn't confused, I could confuse it, but there's no point, so I'm just going to end the turn. First of the 2 fight phases. There we go. And there we are. Now, the thing is, this discarded card is still there. Now, we've won in 1 round of combat, but if I hadn't had enough damage to kill that discarded card, it would have resulted in us starting the whole fight again, but with the cards as they were. So the card I killed is gone. The second card, if it had any health remaining, would be there with that health. It wouldn't get a full recharge, but I'll demonstrate that in a future challenge. There will be challenges which go longer than the first round. We've got 10 meat, 8 bones, and 2 leather. You stalked the boars like a pro and caught them unaware. Your loot may not be as plentiful as a straight fight, but you did not risk getting wounds, so your people will not have the danger of dying now. Take it and leave. There we go. That's our first combat. Now, we've got the bones, so we can head straight back. Or we could go over there. Actually, I don't believe we've got any movement. No, we've run out of movement. Well, this is not so great, because these guys may decide to attack us. Let's go ahead and pass time, and we'll see how things go. Some enemies moving around. Spiders are heading for Dapperton. Why? We're friends of spiders. Ah, there we go. Good. Now, we are going to go ahead into this forest. It takes a little bit longer to do because it's rough terrain. And then we're going to search this ruin before we do anything else. You stumble across some ruins of an old city engulfed in mist and misery. Mystery. Misery. Mysterious misery. Miserable mystery. I'm not sure. Search. You open one of the buildings, a strange-looking stone and metal built affair, and you hear a clunking noise. Then a blunt thud. Before you're able to do anything, you see a skeleton charging away! 2 arms! Excuse me. Now, this is a straight-up fight. This is not a challenge. This is a combat, so there is risk of my characters getting wounded and even dying. When, like a roguelike, when they die, that's it. They're gone. You don't get them back. So, on this one, offense is literally represented by your damage skill. Defense is represented by your armor skill. Your various actions, things are moved around a little bit. Counter tactic is now based on perception. First action is based on your stealth. Excuse me. The types of weapon effects that are valid here: blunt damage, piercing damage, poison, and leech. Begin combat. Now, let's have a look. Most people are capable of doing damage here. In fact, we've got a really good party here. It would have been great if we could have had Fiery in the main combat group, honestly. Sheilab is fantastic. She's got low health, but she's so good in tactics. She's always going to be good as a tactician, no matter what the situation, I think. Yeah, Fiery being in play would have been amazing. This is based off her shield and her sword, which confer the shield ability. Now, if she was in play as a combatant, this would be added to her defense, which that is based on her armor, but this would be based on her shielding and would get added. So that's actually incredibly good, incredibly high. But this ability will allow her to add that shielding to one of the active people. So we're going to keep this deck. I think it's a fairly strong one. The opponent has far more cards, and you notice straight away, they're not going to be a pushover. Excuse me. Now, you've got 23 plus 6 health. So we're going to have to work through 29 defense. It can do 14 damage a turn. Now, I can only play 1 card right now. It is important to get your cards out early. Very important to get your cards out early. Now, the interesting thing with piercing is if I play this, Isdar is going to go to the front. Isdar will always be moved ahead of the last card played. If it was an enemy card that was played last, then he will also do half of his piercing damage to that card straight off the bat just by being played. So, yeah, okay. Now, the other thing with having Isdar do that is that Isdar is now in the lead. This is basically your initiative queue. Things will go in order. As long as they're not confused, they'll go in this order. So Isdar is now going to take the first attack, which is important for us. I am going to need to buff Isdar's defense, though, quite desperately. Hulking Rat, that's not going to be a problem. Doesn't do much damage. We can play 2 cards this turn. Now, Fiery, I was really thinking about having you join the fight, but I'm going to use Shield Ally here. Add shielding bonuses to the last card in initiative queue equal to Shield Ally level. At this point, I could give the Shield Ally to someone who is level 12, which is, you know, amazing, because Isdar's level is fairly high. There's some abilities that I've got that aren't going to be applicable to Isdar because he's too high of a level, but this is one that I can, and it's going to add 12 shielding. That will give Isdar a fighting chance. Now, I can play another card. At this point, we can have a look at their levels. Level 1, level 1. I could use Confuse to confuse the rat. Or I could use Counter Offensive to discard a weapon from my opponent's offensive hand. Or Counter Tactics to remove a tactical card. I think we're going to go Counter Offense. Get rid of a card straight away. Because that, even if these cards are played as combatants, they will have to be confused. So the first turn, they're not going to matter. Okay, you have played first turn, so you've moved the rat forward as a result. But that actually works out to my benefit, because the rat is the least dangerous of these 2 opponents, and generally, tactical abilities will be played against the last card in the initiative queue. Previously, I was kind of thinking in the back of my mind, I wish I'd played Confused before there was a rat on the field, because I could have confused the skeleton, and that's the more frightening of the opponents for the first turn. But by the enemy moving the rat to the front, yes, it means the rat is going to get an attack on his down no matter what now, but I can confuse the skeleton and thus
remove it from the turn order completely for the first turn. That's actually worth quite a lot to me. And another hulking rat. Not going to be too much of a problem. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Dion first. Dion's going to get an awful lot of armor, which is going to be great. Now, the way that this works is when a unit can attack something, it will randomly decide left or right. If it doesn't have that option, then it'll obviously go to the one that it has. In this case, the hulking rat will attack to the right. There's no other way. And it'll attack the first enemy in that row. If Isdar wasn't there, the hulking rat wouldn't have to pass a go because there was a skeleton and a hulking rat in the way. It would just attack Dion first, which is why I put Dion down first, even though I can put either one, because Dion has the greatest defense. So, in the situation that someone does attack to the right, Dion will block most of that damage. And then I can have Gravelord behind Dion. Now, Gravelord's bashing damage is very, very good because bashing damage, if you kill an opponent, then any remaining damage, like if you overkilled it, will be dealt to the second opponent, the next one behind it, effectively. Regular slashing damage just deals it to an enemy. Piercing damage, as I mentioned, deals half damage on placing, as long as it was placed in after an enemy card. And poison, we've already covered. So let's get to the fighting phase. The only enemy who's going to get removed is that rat. Now, Isdar would either kill the rat. It's a shame. I was hoping Isdar would go for the skeleton. Alright, that is a bit of a shame. But we have reduced the skeleton's overall defense there, but someone's going to get hurt. Yes, Isdar was left with 1 point. That was unfortunate. That was very unfortunate, because Isdar is going to be very badly wounded at the end of this fight, because this is, again, a straight-up combat. Now, Isdar is in the tactics deck, and that's just pure luck, but it's good luck for us, because I wouldn't want to have to play Isdar as an offensive card because of his low health. So I'm happy with this. I'm not going to reshuffle in case I end up getting something bad there. And straight away, I'm going to have Sheilab use counter-offensive and take out a card. No matter what, at this point, that card is going to have to face us confused. So the first card I want down will be Fiery, with her amazing tanking ability and pretty impressive damage. You are already partially wounded from the first combat phase, and this is what I mean. Basically, you just continue to do this cycle until one side has wiped out all of the enemy cards. But the damage does carry over. So that's why you also do damage to the discarded pile. Because if you don't manage to kill all of the cards in the discarded pile, they'll come back after the second combat phase. At that point, we'll just play Isdar and Gravelord. It really doesn't matter. I'll use first action, move Gravelord to the front for no particular reason. Now, Get Closer will allow me to bring this tactical card in as a combatant. I'll lose any kind of tactics abilities it has, and it'll start confused. This is based on you having any of the offensive attribute. In the hunting round, you notice that I couldn't bring some of the cards into the combat. It's because they had no gathering skill, so they couldn't be hunters. So there we go. This is going to be over with. Some of the damage will be applied because it was bashing damage, so it carried through, and then Fiery will finish off the hulking rat, and combat is won. Now, Isdar is going to be hurt. Yes, 5 damage to Isdar. Wounds show how much damage you have taken and lowers your health. Isdar is heavily wounded. This character may die from his wounds. I believe it's basically a random chance every turn that'll happen. There are some things you can do to alleviate it. One is if you've got a medic in your party. We don't have one, unfortunately. But the other thing you can do is you can camp. And that's exactly what I'm going to have them do here. Go ahead, duck down, camp for the night. I want you using any supplies. We've got 2 types of food right now, so health is given an extra bonus. And generally speaking, if your party camps and they have food and they have fuel, it seems that there's a relatively low chance of someone dying, but I'm not sure if it is actually a 0 chance. It might just reduce it. So there is still a chance that Isdar might perish here. If we go in there, we can tell them to gather, since they are actually gatherers as well. So non-gatherers can do stuff, but they're not worth much in terms of their gathering ability. We can just overload that with gatherers. May as well get them doing something. There we go. Now, on the next turn, they're going to gather some wood, so they're going to have even more fuel. If we look back at Dapperton, we've got someone who has something to do. We have got Plump Helmet Punk. I didn't give you a task. You can help with the wood. There we go. Actually, no. I believe at this point we can now make cooked meals. Because we gathered some wood and we've also gathered some vegetables, we can make different meals. Now, as I mentioned, the primary material, and it, as far as I can tell, only the primary material, but I could be completely wrong there, and there may be very specific recipes that require a very specific use of primary, secondary, and catalyst, but we can either make meat or we can make vegetables. We'll use vegetables. Pop that there as well. And then we'll have a little bit of fuel down there. Now, we will make bigos, a form of vegetable stew traditionally made of sauerkraut, but any veg does the job if needed. Now, the nice thing here is I'll use 4 vegetables, but I'll get more than that many meals of vegetable stew back. Also, they'll weigh less. So this is actually better food to send out on your expeditions, but there's also another benefit. We'll set that up. I'll set it to infinite production. Plump, I would like you working on that. You can make it in 1 turn. Now, unfortunately, our gatherers can't gather enough wood or vegetables in 1 turn to make it, but in 2 turns, they will gather more than enough to cover it. So effectively, we can make that indefinitely. Now, that will be counted as an extra type of food. So if we have a look at our inventory, our village overview, no. Managed supplies, there we go, I knew I'd find it eventually. We've got raw vegetables, raw meat, and then we'll have vegetable stew. That'll give us 3 different types of things to eat. But, as you can probably guess, if we just pop in here and go back to craft again, because it changes based on the primary material, we can have meat, vegetables, and then a little bit more wood. We've now got a meat stew. Pieces of whatever red meat you had, stewed for a few hours, won't win any awards, but will fill you up. Now, again, I can set that up as constant, and I'll take my least capable gatherer, pop you there. Now, that is going to reduce some things. We're not going to get vegetables quite as frequently, but, well, we'll be all right on the whole. It'll still be every 2 turns. But this means we'll have, in total, 4 different types of veggies. I'll pass 1 turn, and then we're going to be wrapping up this episode. It's gone on quite a long time, but I figured it would be nice to get a good chunk of the gameplay as well, because with first taste videos, you tend to do a lot of explaining things in the first video. So by extending the length, we'll get a little bit more going on. Now, I believe that these enemies are going to become more aggressive at night time. But if we have a look, we'll get rid of you. And head down here. Have a look at mana supplies. There we go. 3 different types of foods being eaten. This is giving us +1 will, +1 health. When there are 4, everyone in the village will get +1 shielding and dexterity as well. So, as you can see, having different types of food, really, really useful. Really useful. Now, I want to check on Isdar. You're still not good, but you're up to 5 health of 7 now, so you've only got a small amount of wounds. I guess that's okay. If we have a look down here, wounds 2. You've no longer got a heavy wound, so I don't believe that Isdar can perish from this now. He'll just generally heal. But that is going to be the end of this episode. In the next, we are going to be going and checking on the next stage of Theodore's tutorial. We do have the bones that we were tasked to get from the boars, so we'll be able to progress that, and we'll continue to do odds and sods around the around Dapperton, getting the village working. And once there's a decent amount of the foods, like the vegetable stew and the meat stew, I'll probably have an expedition go back and gather some of that. I may even split this expedition up so there's 2 parties of 3 rather than 1 party of 6, and start doing a little bit more each turn. But that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed this first episode of the First Taste mini-series for Thea. Again, with the First Taste series, we'll be playing it for a couple of episodes, at least up until release. Possibly a little bit beyond that as well, but I would love to hear what you think about the game and any feedback you may have. If you have the game and have any tips, I am all ears. But until next time, Do take care.